Since the early days of human conflict, memorials and monuments to the fallen have been erected. Some are located where battles took place, others bear the names of the fallen in or near their hometowns. These memorials differ, quite simply, because the events and the names of the people carried on them are different. In this film, commissioned by Lowestoft Town Council for the 2021 Remembrance commemorations, local historians Ivan Bunn and Bob Collis will be looking at a selection of war memorials in and around the town of Lowestoft. It would be an impossible task to include each and every one, but we sincerely hope that this cross-section of memorials, whether they are monuments, plaques or road names, will give an idea of the many and varied ways that local communities have paid tribute to and honoured those members of the armed forces and civilians who have given their lives in times of conflict. It is profoundly important that we continue to remember them, along with the reasons for their sacrifice. All those involved in the making of this film would also like to pay tribute to the Lowestoft and District Branch of the Royal British Legion for its commitment and dedication over the past 100 years in supporting the servicemen and women and commemorating the fallen. It is in recognition of this organisation's work that Lowestoft Town Council is bestowing the Freedom of the Town on the Lowestoft and District Branch of the Royal British Legion in this its centenary year, in memoriam.
One of the most remote and possibly least well-known war memorials lies in the countryside at Waddling Lane, Flixton, on the outskirts of Lowestoft. This memorial was erected by the then Lord Somerleyton only a month after a tragic friendly fire incident in November 1944. 2 US Navy officers, Lieutenants Aiken and Black, were killed when their RAF Mosquito night fighter was shot down by our own defences while chasing a V-1 flying bomb. The memorial has periodically been cleaned over the years and restored, and despite its remoteness, services are still held and tributes regularly left there. Bomb and mine disposal was and is one of the most dangerous tasks undertaken by the services. 2 naval officers who lost their lives in a magnetic mine explosion on Corton Beach in 1942 are remembered on a plaque displayed with the war memorial in the street at Corton. One of the 2 men, Ensign John Howard, was the first American mine and bomb disposal officer to be killed in Europe in World War II.
Here, at the Ormiston Dean's Academy, there is a memorial tablet and a memorial clock. Together they commemorate the names of the 27 old boys who lost their lives in the Great War. In 1951, a memorial library was opened here containing another memorial board dedicated to the memory of the 54 ex-pupils who died in the Second World War. In November 1983, the Padre of the 2nd Battalion Parachute Regiment dedicated a carved wooden plaque in memory of David Parr, a former pupil who died during the fighting in the Falklands War in 1982. Annually, a memorial cup, the David Parr Trophy, donated by his family, is awarded to the best all-round athlete in the school.
Of the 105 air raids on Lowestoft in World War II, the most destructive and the second most deadly in terms of casualties was that on the evening of 12th of May 1943, when 25 German FW-190 aircraft carried out a low-level attack on the town. Local legend has it that a 21st birthday party was underway at the Jubilee Stores pub on the corner of Camden Street and High Street. There was no warning as a bomb scored a direct hit on the building, destroying it and killing 16 people. The plaque was erected on the 75th anniversary of the raid by members of the Jack Rose Old Lowestoft Society in 2018. Two memorials relevant to the epic events of 1940 and deferred from the 80th anniversary last year by the COVID pandemic were commissioned by Lowestoft Town Council and unveiled at the Lowestoft Heritage Workshop Centre in September this year. One marks the Dunkirk evacuation, Operation Dynamo, and records all the individual ships and boats which left Lowestoft to take part. The second plaque pays tribute to the RAF in the Battle of Britain and carries the names of every one of the 19 civilians and servicemen killed in air raids on Lowestoft during that period. The site of Lowestoft's worst wartime tragedy, the infamous Waller's Raid of January the 13th, 1942, is marked by a memorial stone attached to a building at the marina. This memorial is in close proximity to the spot where 4 bombs fell, destroying Waller's restaurant and other premises and claiming the lives of 70 people. The late Jack Rose and members of the society, which proudly bears his name, raised the money for the memorial, and in 1992 it was unveiled on the 50th anniversary of the raid.
This ancient side chapel in St Margaret's Church was restored and beautified as a memorial to the Lowestoft men who died in the Great War. It was unveiled by Admiral Sir Doveton Sturdy and dedicated by the Bishop of Norwich on the 8th of April 1923. These panels on the north wall bear the names of 711 men.
Leslie Nichols was one of the sailors in the RAF, serving with the Air Sea Rescue Service aboard high-speed launchers. He and 10 other crewmen lost their lives in the North Sea on the 23rd of March 1944, when HSL 2706 was attacked by Allied fighters which mistook it for a German E-boat. He was never found, and this is his memorial stone on the family grave at St Michael's Churchyard at Alton.
In St Michael's Church itself is the memorial to the men of Alton who lost their lives in the Great War. It contains a total of 72 names. The wooden memorial board immediately below contains the names of Alton men who died in the Second World War. On July the 9th, 1919, the Mayor of Lowestoft set up the Lowestoft War Memorial Charity under the 1916 War Charities Act. Its aim was to create a memorial funded by public subscription to be in ever grateful memory of the Lowestoft men who had fallen on the land, at sea or in the air. The aim was soon achieved, and the memorial on Royal Plain was unveiled by Admiral of the Fleet Lord Westerwings on 11th of August 1921. It was dedicated by Reverend E.C. Morgan. Beneath the memorial is a roll of honour containing the names of 716 Lowestoft men who died in the Great War. It was built for Cornish grey granite by James Proudfoot of Lowestoft. A panel dedicated to those who lost their lives in the Second World War was added later. In September 1990, the Royal Air Force Association added a plaque in memory of those who had died during the Battle of Britain some 50 years earlier. So great was the response for public subscriptions, not only was the committee able to pay for the permanent war memorial to be erected, but also to build a war memorial wing to Lowestoft Hospital in Alexandra Road. Now empty and all but forgotten, the wing to the hospital was formally opened by Field Marshal Viscount Allenby on the 7th of June 1926. That day, thousands of ex-servicemen formed a guard of honour for him. This memorial home was set up by the Reverend Frederick Walter Ems after the death of Lord Kitchener in 1916. It opened on August the 7th, 1919 as the Lord Kitchener Memorial Holiday Home. Its purpose was to provide seaside holidays for convalescent ex-servicemen whose health had been wrecked by the hardships or privations of war. Today, known as Kitcheners, it still provides subsidised holidays for ex-servicemen and their spouses.
There were many aircraft, both Allied and Axis, which went down in the sea off the east coast of England in World War II. This memorial bench at Kensington Gardens has a plaque which details the crew of one of them. The RAF Halifax bomber described was not on a raid over Germany. It was on special duties operations to drop weapons and supplies to the Belgian resistance. All 7 of the mixed Australian, Canadian and British crew were lost. The Lowestoft branch of the RAF Association unveiled the memorial bench in 2001.
Like its counterpart in Lowestoft, this simple but effective memorial in Pakefield was made from Cornish grey granite by James Proudfoot of Lowestoft. It commemorates the names of 40 Pakefield men who died in the Great War. The east face lists the names of 18 Navy men and the west face that of 22 military men. It was unveiled and dedicated by the Dean of Norwich on May the 5th, 1921. On the night of the 21st of April, 1941, this memorial was bathed in the lurid glow of fire as the thatched roof of Pakefield Church was consumed by incendiary bombs.
Sometimes memorials are erected on new housing developments to events that occurred there. On March the 14th, 1945, an American B-17 Flying Fortress bomber returning early from a mission crashed in flames in fields on what was then Haddenham's Farm, Carlton Colville. Sadly, 2 of the crew, pilot 2nd Lieutenant Robert Porch and radio operator Staff Sergeant Doug Sievert, were killed attempting to bail out. During the 1980s, the crash site disappeared under the Saxon Fields estate, now known locally as the Dales, and several roads were named after the event. Then in 1992, a memorial to permanently mark the crash was unveiled in Ribblesdale, in close proximity to the site of the 1945 crash.
This unusual memorial in Kessingland churchyard bears the names of 52 parishioners who died in the Great War. Built from granite, it was unveiled on the 17th of July 1921 by Commander Trelawney, Royal Navy. The memorial was dedicated by Canon R.A. Bignold. The names of 37 members of the local community who died in the Second World War were later added.
Set in the grass bank close to the Kessingland War Memorial is a memorial stone which remembers the 10 American airmen killed when their B-24 Liberator crashed on Kessingland marshes in 1944. Their aircraft was shot down by an enemy intruder whilst returning after dark from a daylight raid over Germany. The stone was dedicated in 2010 at a service led by the Bishop of Norwich. One unusual touch is that small pieces of the aircraft are set in the base of the memorial.
We tried, oh God, we tried, so we could be here too, and walk around remembering and look for names we knew. Our lives were lost so far away upon a distant shore, but we are here in memory as you read our names once more. Remember us although we're truly gone. Remember us as we once were, and not just names, in stone.